Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. On the day when this video will have come out, it will have been 20 years since the release of Meteora, Linkin Park's sophomore album. The name itself is derived either from a form or an arrangement of Greek Orthodox monasteries. It is therefore meant to invoke a sense of natural beauty, architectural design excellence, and higher learning and understanding. To what extent that it is safe to say that to some extent those ideas have flowed into the creation of this album. However, an idea that I think might be more familiar to Linkin Park and to their primary intended audience is perhaps the word meteoric, in the sense that this band has had a meteoric rise with their, after the release of their debut album, which I've also reviewed a while back. And with Meteora, they want to continue that astounding rise. They want to maintain their ascendancy and stay on that peak of creative vision and artistic excellence. Is that something they've managed? Well, that is what I wanted to find out. And just like when I reviewed their previous album, I haven't listened to any of the deluxe editions or the bonus tracks. I am basing this review solely off of the standard edition that would have come out in March of 2003. Okay, with that out of the way, it's time I actually talked about the album. After a 13-second forward, the listener will experience the first full-length track of this album, and arguably its first deep cut, "Don't Stay," which right off the bat shows that this band hasn't missed a beat when it comes to its performance and when it comes to its emotional depth. Everything that makes perhaps not everything, but a lot of what made Linkin Park noteworthy from a sound perspective is present in that song, and it does show people that yes, this is what you've came for. The actual thesis statement of this album only comes with the second full-length track and the first single off of the album, "Somewhere I Belong." This song manages to illustrate in a manner that is both elegant and intricate the contradictory nature of the human being as a social animal, caught between the need to blend in and the need to stand out. That shines through not just in the lyrics, but also in how the composition deals with presenting each side of the duality and how these dualities interact. It is definitely one of the highlights of this album. The next three tracks, starting with promotional single "Lying to You," then followed with "Easier to Run and Hit the Floor," or the other way around, I'm kind of blanking out right now, all represent some variation of estrangement through appeasement. In all of these tracks, there is a power differential between the lyrical self and their counterpart, and in order to adjust or be able to live within this power differential, the lyrical self has to humor the counterpoint, even though it is slowly eating them up inside and causing them to bury their own inner worlds. That burial and that sublimation reaches a boiling point within the second single off of this album, "Faint." If you know anything about this song, then you should know exactly what it is that makes it distinctive, and what makes it memorable, and what makes it another highlight of the album. It is short, I will admit that, but it is fast, it is intense, and it imparts a lot of and it showcases a lot of strength and a lot of and simultaneously a lot of vulnerability. it is what can I say? It is perfect for its for its role. The next track, Figure.09 or Figure.09, I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to say it, sees the lyrical self and try to pick up the broken pieces of the outburst that was faint, and figure out what they should be doing from this point forward. The next two tracks, the fifth and fourth single of this album respectively, both represent a different avenue which the lyrical self takes. First of all, we have Breaking the Habit, the fifth single, which sees the lyrical self try to suppress their inner world because it is messy, and because it is somewhat scary as well, through the use of narcotics before deciding that is not what they should do. And the following track, and fourth single, From the Inside, shows the lyrical self once again venting that anger and that rage, because that felt good at the time, and it might bring some level of alleviation a second time. The next track, Nobody's Listening, sees the lyrical self once again gathering their own impressions and readjusting their inner world. What exactly the result of this adjustment isn't really revealed. Isn't revealed directly after this track. The listener first has to go through the only instrumental track of this album, Session. Somewhat interesting that Linkin Park once again decided that their album should have one instrumental track, and it should be the second to last one. Make of that what you will. As for Session itself, it exists and there's not much to say about it. Meteora closes with Numb, the third single off the album, and perhaps the single that most eloquently describes the messy past and relationship that the lyrical self has had with their counterpoint. The most important thing here is that this is not a surrender. This is not them. This is not them giving up on their own growth. This is them finally being able to piece together the mess that was their relationship to their counterpoint, and finally finding a place from which they can move on. Which while still open-ended, is a very optimistic note to end on, especially when considering the rest of the album. Somewhat appropriately, this track features the cleanest, smoothest production job of this entire album. There is a great synergy between all of the elements, and by that I mean the lyrical performance and a lot of the instrumentation. None of the instruments overwhelm the sound, and in fact they complement each other quite well. They synergize quite well. Nothing really overstays its welcome. It comes in right when it should, for just as long as it should, and it helps to establish an outstanding sonic tableau, which makes this album once again represent another highlight of the album, or of the album listening experience, because I can say that Breaking the Habit has had a bit of a resurgence in its latter years. Let's just say it like that. The other production jobs off of this album, while still good, are perhaps not as impressive as they could have been with Numb. And there are some decisions that really make me scratch my head. Not necessarily because they're bad, but because they are poorly integrated within the tracks themselves, and somewhat bring them down. Then again, another thing that kind of brings each individual track down is the fact that within this album there are more tracks that fade into each other. I think Linkin Park was going for, or their producer, who was Don Gilmore, I think, wanted to create more synergy between the tracks of this album, But honestly, what this fade out does is dilute the individual tracks, if I may say so myself. That being said, that effect is countered quite effectively by the change in the lyrical performances on this album. With the hybrid theory, you could argue that Chester and Mike had a uh, had a somewhat equal level of contribution or of importance to to what it is that they brought to each track. However, with this album, Mike slips more and more in the background, and Chester steps up as the lead singer and frontman, which I have to say he does expertly, especially in the more emotionally laden tracks off of this album, and really allows them to stand out that much more. With Breaking the Habit in particular being being an album highlight. Overall, while some of the decisions that went into making this album weren't the best, everything that makes Linkin Park stand out as an exciting and engaging act, from their emotional lyrical performances to their very experimental production, is still present within this album. My final rating for Meteora is a 4 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please leave a like and maybe even share the video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you'd like to add to the review, to the reviewer, to the album or the band, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about more book-related and literature topics, a link to which you will find in the description down below. I also have a Patreon in case you want to support me more directly, so I can, for example, afford a better wardrobe. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.